Do you want to create a successful business and preserve your energy? Make more money while you stay true to your values? Know how to reclaim your calm in times of stress? Enjoy a balance between the time you give your career, your family, and yourself without feeling guilty? Welcome to the Reclaim Your Balance podcast. I'm Dr. Laura Schwent, longtime dentist and work-life balance coach. In each episode, we'll explore ways to feel empowered about the time you devote to your career, your family, and yourself. Develop tools to help you reclaim your calm in times of stress, and purposefully make more balanced daily decisions based on your core values. Join me as I hack the world of work-life balance and bring to you extraordinary professional women who are at the forefront of living their best lives in balance and harmony as guests to constantly inspire you to reclaim your balance. You are the CEO of your life. Now become the boss of your balance. And they didn't kick us off. We are a little late, but we are live with Dr. Laura Mach. And she used her Mach speed to get here this morning from an orthodontist appointment with her son.
I did.
So thank you. I know you're juggling, just like many moms in the dental world, trying to get everything taken care of. So we really appreciate you spending a little time with us today.
I'm really excited to be here and very grateful that, we had a big storm in our state, really big storm. So I was grateful that my son could even be seen at the orthodontist, and grateful that I could be here with you too. We have power. We have power. We have air conditioning. We have internet. And it's good to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, a little bit about you, and you are a dentist. You have a private practice, and you are also essentially a leadership/life coach for busy, mostly women, right? Dental
women.
Yep. Dental professionals as well. So tell us a little bit about your journey into dentistry. What got you interested in the dental world?
Well, actually, the reason that I got into dentistry is because I needed a job. And somebody at my church offered me a job in his dental office. And I was just like instantly amazed and romanticized by the whole idea. Like I watched him cut a class 2 and I was like, this is the most amazing thing.
It was just destiny.
Exactly. And I said to him, well, do you think that I could go to dental school? And he said, well, I don't know, because dental school is really hard.
Oh.
But
and that fueled you, didn't it?
Well, a little bit, yeah, because I was like, but it was kind of a long journey because I had babies and then I got back into working. And I was like, oh yeah, I wanted to be a dentist. But then I had children. So it was like, could I do this? But once I got the belief, I was actually sitting with a dentist with the suction and the air water syringe. When I looked at him and I go, I know I could do that. And so I went home and I changed my classes. I was going to the community college, a couple classes at a time because I'd never finished anything. And here I was with these children. And anyway, I just changed my registration all to science and math. And then from that point on, you just couldn't stop me.
Oh, that is so inspirational. And so that's an amazing part of your story is you started dental school with 2 small children.
Yep.
And you finished with 3.
Correct. I was like, maybe we should have another. And then boom, we were pregnant. So yeah.
Oh, and we were visiting about this a little bit before, but the fact that you had children in dental school really made you focus your time when you were in school. Like there was no extra time outside of school, right? So tell us a little bit how you balanced that journey.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I feel like this can help us now too. Like we're all busy right? And we tell ourselves that we're busy and that we don't have enough time. But when you get desperate to accomplish something, like for me, I was like, I am going to be a dentist. And yes, I have these children and I'm going to be devoted to them too, but I am going to make the most of every moment I have. And so my friends or my classmates would be sitting in the back and they'd be texting old style because of course this is back when they were flip phones and it was 222-33-555 or whatever to say whatever you wanted. But I was in the front row. I was raising my hand. I was focusing on, I was actually predicting what multiple choice questions were going to be asked by the material that was being presented, because this was my moment. When I got home, I had to nurse my babies. I had to put them to bed. I had to wipe their noses and change their diapers and love them and tell them goodnight stories and all those things. So it was just like, this is my time to laser focus on being a dentist.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And have you carried that then now throughout life? Has that been sort of a good habit that you got into then that has helped you throughout life as well?
I think so, because it was like I started like, this is my moment to do this thing. So if I make a commitment to somebody, I might already be like sending an email or whatever, right as we're talking about the fact that I'm going to send you this link or whatever. I'm going to do this right now because this is my moment to get it done.
That's fantastic. So then you graduate dental school, and what was your journey then as far as practicing?
Well, it's kind of funny because what we tell ourselves as reality is what we believe. And for me, I was 32 and I thought I was old. And the curve. And it was 2007. And so I immediately bought a practice because I thought I was old. I thought that was what I needed to do to catch up, basically. Because all my classmates were 6 or 7 years younger than I was. So I bought a practice. It was a really, really good bread and butter practice that the seller couldn't see. He couldn't take new patients anymore because he was too full. So I bought from him and then he worked for me. Yeah. And then so the practice just grew and grew and grew just organically. We didn't have to market or anything because the demand was just already there.
Nice.
Yeah. And now I've owned it for 13 years.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a really inspiring story. And, part of what you developed with you is that you found out that there was a lot that you learned in dental school, but there was a missing piece. And explain more what was missing and how you found that out in your journey with your brand new practice.
This is really, I'm glad you asked me about this because this is important for every person who is listening to this. Okay. Dental school teaches us how to do that class 2 that seemed so magical to me, and how the shape of a number 8 or number 9, exactly where those lobes are and the line angles and the point angles and all that stuff. They teach you the technical things, but dental school also teaches you how to be kind of hard on yourself. Accidentally, maybe dental school doesn't really care about your mental well-being. I'm anthropomorphizing dental school a little bit here, but what happens is we turn our human brains plus the training that we have turns us into negative Nancys that have a hard time actually enjoying everything that we have accomplished. And that's what happened with me. I had this really amazing practice. We cannot find enough hygiene appointments in our practice. There are patients coming out of our ears. Okay. But I didn't really even like going to work anymore. And my numbers were going down because my leadership wasn't thriving. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. And I realized that nobody had ever taught me in dental school how to manage my mind, how to manage all my thoughts about motherhood, business ownership, my clinical abilities. All these things together were creating this whirlwind of chaos and unhappiness. So sorry.
Right. That's all right. Everything okay?
Yeah. I just rushed here, so I didn't turn off my dings and my beeps.
That's all right. So when you figured this out, because I congratulate you for figuring that out, because I think a lot of people don't even realize, they just they have that unhappiness, but they don't realize that what's missing. What is it? But you honed in that it was your leadership and controlling your mind. So what steps did you take? What were your next steps?
Well, I got a coach. I got a coach who showed me what was happening in my mind, what was optional in there, what was happening automatically, what my thought habits were. For example, I might think to myself, "You're the worst." I'd look at a margin and it was gray, or I had an open contact, and I wouldn't think to myself, "Oh, there's so many factors in this, and I can see why I would have an open contact." I would just go automatically to "You're the worst," or "Nobody better find out what a crappy dentist you are," things like that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that those types of thoughts were, first of all, not actually true, but had just been developed from all these habits that we have, starting with like our first wax practical, right? Or maybe even before that, when we feel like we have to get straight A's to get into dentistry, right? And then not only were those thoughts not necessarily true, but they were also creating undesirable results for me. Because if I'm thinking "you're the worst," am I actually taking the best care of my patients? No, because I feel ashamed of myself. I feel ashamed of my dentistry. And so I'm not going to offer my patients the best care. So becoming aware of what was happening in my mind was the start of turning around my practice and my life.
That's fantastic. So do you have any good tips as far as if someone's in that space right now, what would be the first thing that they should do? Because I'd be willing. I know I've had those same conversations.
Yeah. So first of all, the way that you would know if this is happening to you is because our emotions are sort of like flags. They're like, "Hey," and you need to pay attention to them. So if you find yourself feeling ashamed or discouraged, that's the first thing is, "I'm feeling ashamed right now." Okay. And just figure out what that actually feels like. Every emotion has a physical sensation that's attached to it. That's how we know what we're feeling. We learn that when we're like 3. "Oh, are you sad?" And your parents are helping you identify that. And then you start to associate that physical sensation with the emotion that you have. But as adults, we're like completely disconnected from that, right? So we need to figure out what we're feeling, what that actually feels like in our body. And then we need to understand that every emotion that we have comes from thoughts. Okay, so this is when we start to look at what we're thinking, which is called metacognition. We're thinking about what we're thinking. And we can do that because we're aware beings. We can actually understand that our brain and our thoughts are not actually who we are as people. And we can look. And the best way to look, I've found, is to just get out a blank piece of paper, throw away all of your judgments of what you're thinking, take that pen and just write down everything that you're thinking. And that's called a thought download. And you're writing it down. It's just for you. You can burn it afterwards if you want, or you can look at it. But when you look at it, is that physical practice of metacognition. What am I thinking right now? And you'll be surprised what you find on the list. And you'll notice too, if you start to critically look at them, a lot of those things that you wrote down are not necessarily facts.
Yeah. So number one step, become aware.
Yeah.
So in your journey now, you worked with a coach and got results and started discovering ways to navigate this mind of ours and make it more healthy and joyful. And then what led you to want to become a coach? What was it? Was it just this need that I found out this great secret and I want to share?
It was just like the moment when I decided I wanted to be a dentist. It was like, I can do this and I can help people. And there are so many dentists out there who need this, who need to be able to separate out what they learned in dental school and how to be a perfectionist from what is making them feel unhappy right now, not letting them enjoy their life. So yeah, I went to certification training so that I could help other people do the same thing.
That's awesome. So we talk about leadership, and I think that is definitely a missing link in dental school. And So tell us, what steps do we need to take to become an effective leader in our practice? And this could be really, even if you don't own your practice, if you're an associate, you're still in a leadership role. And so what as women especially can we start developing our leadership skills with?
Do you mind if I first explain why we as women run into this leadership challenge? Okay.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
It's funny because when I first bought my practice, I literally believed that the way I could tell if I was doing a good job leading the practice is if nobody was mad at me. So I just ran around trying to like put out fires. Are you happy? Are you happy? Okay, this patient wants me to pull their wisdom teeth. No problem. This patient wants me to give them their 2 free prophies a year and not tell them that they have gum disease. And this, the dentist that works for me wants this, and the assistants want this. And all I do is I just make them all happy. Mm-hmm. But basically what that created for me was chaos. And the reason that I believed that, the reason that I made this mistake is very common because as a woman, I have been taught from the time that I was probably 18 months old that my job is to make other people happy. Mm-hmm. And that my role is how do I serve the people around me? And I don't want to say that I'm not service oriented, but it's always in relation to, okay, well, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're a sister, right? But nobody ever said, listen to your inner voice and start there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And make sure everybody's happy. Oh, you're so pretty to look at. Thank you so much for being pretty so that our eyes can be happy when they look at you, that kind of thing. So what I found is that the very first thing that I needed to do was actually define what my practice was and who it served and how we did that. So basically creating a vision that helped make it easier for me to make decisions. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I learned through coaching is that we think that we're clear with our employees about what we want, but most of the time we are not clear. We are not even close to clear. And so we have to start thinking about our leadership from the perspective of the people we are leading. Mm-hmm. So what are their expectations? What are they hearing from us? And we have to break down exactly what we want from them and why we want it. And then we have to double check. And the hard thing about that is that all we want to do is run into the room and cut the next crown prep or whatever. And we don't want to, we feel like we can't stop and have these conversations with our employees. But until we do that, our practice is just getting pushed around in the wind, whatever is pushing it this direction or that direction. We're not taking control. We're not taking the helm of the boat ourselves. So yeah. That was a little bit of a rambly answer, but.
No, that's a great answer. And it kind of stems to that so often we assume that people know. And we really do have to take the step back and really almost like teaching. If you're a teacher, you know this stuff. And so you have to figure out a way to put yourself back before you knew it so that you can teach it effectively. I mean, sort of the same thing.
Yes. Let me give you an example. That's perfect. It's like teaching, like being a teacher. So I have been wanting to redo our new patient process. And because I want it to be so much more consistent than it is right now. It used to be, but with COVID and we have a new associate now. And so everything's just kind of like, well, let's put them here. So what I did was I started a Google document and made it Google so that other people could add to it if they wanted to, like my hygienist and my associate. And I said, okay, what is the very first thing? How are we touching this patient? And so it started with the marketing and how are they going to call? And what are we going to say when they call? How do we do a new patient phone call? And then they arrive. And what's that arrival going to be like? And this is a painstaking document, right? Like this has taken me hours already and I'm not done with it. But because I'm being so specific, I will be able to tell my employees exactly what I want and not just say, oh, well, let's be really nice to the new patients and very welcoming. It's got to be much more specific than that. And with dentistry, as you guys all know, everything we do in dentistry, it's so many details. Which code are we using? When do we put on our gloves? How do we say goodbye? How do we answer the phone? All these things, there's so many details. And as dentists, it's so comfortable to just get into doing the work. But if we don't take control of the details, they're just going to go willy-nilly however they want to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what a beautiful thing. I congratulate you and think it's wonderful that you've created this doc that they can add to, because they have a piece of this, right? Which probably is a wonderful feeling for them, because they have opinions and how things work, and you create a system that everyone buys into.
Yes, and I have to say, your employees have feelings, and it matters so much, because our feelings are what drive what we do. So if we're eating in a way that keeps in mind what our employees are feeling, then we are going to get more of the actions we want from them. And if you think about it, you just picture every dental assistant, every dental hygienist, when they decided to go to school to do this thing, it's probably because they decided they wanted to help people. So if you're helping your employees to feel helpful, then you're going to get more of that action that you want from them. So, and let them buy in, let them have ownership in the process of whatever it is they're doing, because then they also feel trusted and respected. And so again, we're going to see more of how we want them to act come through.
That's awesome. I love that. And that segues right into tough conversations, having tough conversations with your team members. And this could be team members as an owner doc. This could be an associate trying to have a tough conversation with the owner doc. It could really be anything. So give us some of your highlights on that. We had a talk and you just had some great tips for tough conversations.
Okay. Yes. But thank you for bringing this up. So this is in dentistry. I will tell you what my default is, and I'll still do this, even though I've been a coach for a while now. Somebody does something that I don't really like. Maybe they give me the wrong burr, or I can tell they didn't use the list to set up the operatory. My temptation is to just let it go and keep working, or go,
Guilty.
Somebody will just understand when I make this sigh that means I don't like what you did.
Exactly.
And then the end of the day comes and you're tired and you're hungry and your kids are waiting for you to pick them up or whatever. And so then you just let it go and you don't stop to do something about it. But I am telling you right now, the effort that it takes to have this conversation is going to reward you. Both because next time you look at what you want, or you'll find out that your employee is not following your leadership and needs to go bye-bye. Because when you stop to have conversations like check-ins with your people, then they feel heard and understood. So it's going to go both ways when you have that tough conversation. It's not just going to be, you did this wrong, right? It's because we're going to sort of frame it, okay? So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to identify why you need to talk to this person. Okay. And what your objective is. Okay. So you don't want to make your objective as I want to make them feel sorry. I want them to feel bad that they let me down, because what's that going to help? Right.
Nothing.
You need to think about this before you talk to them. Otherwise your initial reaction might be to want to make them feel guilty or ashamed or whatever, but just know that's not exactly what we want. Right. Best case scenario would be that the employee changes what they're doing for next time, right? And also that the employee is feeling helpful and respected, because then they're going to be able to do those actions. And it's not just a to-do list. They're being driven by their own biology to help you with their job, okay? So we're going to look at the objective of what we want to happen. And then before we talk to them, we're actually going to look at our own feelings. Because if we try to talk to them while we're feeling angry, then I can promise you we're not going to be as effective at communicating to them. So we want to look at that feeling. If we're feeling angry, we can reschedule the conversation, or you can talk to a coach or a friend until you're out of anger. Okay, don't want to do that. And then we also want to think about what we want the employees to feel. And we can't actually make the employees feel or think anything. However, we are the leader of the practice, which means that if they're following us, that we can lead them to certain thoughts, and those thoughts will lead to feelings. So just bear with me on that. It's just really helpful, I find, to sit there and go, okay, what I'm going to have this conversation with Susie. What do I want her to walk away feeling? Okay. For my practice, not because I'm a nice person, but because it's better for my practice if she feels this certain way. Okay. And then I find it very, very helpful. So let's say we're going to correct her, right? I find it extremely helpful to actually write down what exactly did she do and what was the effect on the practice. Okay, so
that's awesome.
You didn't introduce me to the new patient, and so I didn't get the warm fuzzies handoff, and that means that there's not as much trust. You didn't use the setup checklist, and then we had to stop 3 times, and then I was behind for Mrs. Jones, and this is bad because, and you're listing it out, okay? And you're doing it with facts. You can't say, well, you had a bad attitude, because what is that? What does that even mean? You could say you rolled your eyes at me, or you walked away while I was talking to you, or something like that. You have to be very, very specific about what they did that you want to do different. And so you're going to say exactly what you want them to change. And keep in mind, you've written this out beforehand so that you have exactly what you're going to say. You're going to say how you want them to change, and then what will the consequence be if they don't change. And the reason you got to put that consequence in is because change is hard. Brains do not want to change. They want to keep on doing what they were doing before. But if there's a consequence, then you've given them a reason why they want to change. Okay. And then you're going to thank them because you want them to feel appreciated. So that's my step-by-step process. And actually, if anybody wants, it's a freebie that people can download for themselves.
Yes, I have the link, and I will put it in the comments below. That's fantastic, because you're so right. Just taking some time to really consider what you're going to say, and even having notes, writing it down, having notes so that you don't get off track.
I had to do this a couple of weeks ago, and I had the entire thing typed out beforehand. And every few hours I would go back to my typing, and I would read it and change it around so that I was totally ready. I didn't have to do any thinking while I was talking to her.
Yes. And that's so good, I think, because our emotions, sometimes we can be nervous about having this conversation. We can be, there's just so many emotions that sometimes if we don't have that checklist, that we can forget things. And then the conversation ends and you go home and you're like, oh, but I didn't say that. And that would have been so good.
Yes, you can be nervous, you can be resentful, you can be angry. And even if you're trying to, check your emotions before you go, this is a tough one for all of us, and you're going to have some feelings. So having it ready is awesome. I do it with my husband too.
Well, I was just thinking, actually, this would be great with kids. This is really an effective tool.
It is, just to be able to say, this is what you did. This was the effect. This is what I would like you to do. I'm sorry. I keep thinking that I've turned off my ring.
That's all right.
Again, and I'm really popular this morning.
You are. That's awesome.
There.
Oh,
I did it.
Fantastic. Well, now, on top of all of this, then you also have a podcast. So tell us the birth of your podcast. How did that start?
It started with the coaching. I'm like, I got to get the word out. It started as a YouTube channel because that's free.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be as organized as doing a podcast. And I just was like, I got to get the word out to all these ladies who own dental practices that their life could be easier. And it's been, I don't know, a year and a half now. It's been 9 months since I actually made it into a podcast that's on iTunes and Spotify. And it's just a couple times a month. But honestly, if you are listening to this Facebook Live and you're like, this lady's got some really helpful stuff, dive into the podcast, because there's like 25 episodes now, and plus the old ones on YouTube. And this one that came out this week is called How to Not Go Home Grumpy.
Yep. I actually put the link to that in our group, because it kind of went with last week. I did a whole thing on being angry and how to manage, and so I thought that was a perfect kind of segue into that. So yeah, it is. You have a lot of really great topics on that podcast. So for sure, check that out. And I will put the link to that as well. Actually, I think I did already put the link to your website and to your podcast. So
much. And I have to say, I really like what you're getting done.
Oh, you're sweet.
So cool. I mean, really, we basically have very similar messages and goals. Getting the word out that life can be better, and here are some ways that we can do it.
Yep. Yes, I think so. And I think that women, we need to hear this from other women, and we need to be supportive. And that's what I love about you, is you're so supportive and just want to help. You just have a helping heart, and that I think we need more of that in the world right now, especially.
Oh my gosh. Right now, we need to stick together. We got to help each other, guys. We have to, or we're going to fall apart.
Yes.
If we help each other, we're going to be so strong together. So
yeah. All right. I have two questions left. And one is intermittent fasting. You are a big proponent of intermittent fasting. How did you get into it? And tell us why you think this is the perfect thing for women in the dental profession.
So I learned about intermittent fasting from another podcast, which I highly recommend for anyone listening. It's called Weight Loss for Busy Physicians by Dr. Katrina Ubel.
Oh, cool. No, that sounds interesting.
It's so good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And she teaches about intermittent fasting and fat adaptation. So what I'm talking about for your listeners is teaching your body to use your own fat stores when you need fuel, instead of just making you hungry for more processed foods. So as Americans who have grown up where we are in our food supply and our culture, our bodies are operating in a suboptimal way with this diet that we have. And so we get hungry, we get hangry. And if we can just step back and eat a little bit more like humans are designed to eat, then we don't get hungry. And for a female dentist practice owner, that is pretty much perfect, because then you can keep on taking care of your patients until you're done. So what I do is every day I start with coffee and heavy cream, and then I don't eat until lunch. But I could go longer if I needed to. In fact, sometimes on days when I'm not working, I don't have lunch until like 2 or 3 p.m. And this is because I have used intermittent fasting to teach my body how to not be hungry. But if you fast, how do you do it?
So I stop eating about 6 o'clock at night, and then I usually don't eat until I have coffee in the morning, and then I don't usually eat till noon.
That's perfect.
So yeah. Yeah. But I think too, it would be effective to maybe even push through lunch in the practice, like you said, because so often you just scarf down some food because you get that first hunger pain and you think, I'm hungry, I got to eat. And then you scarf down something that A, may not be healthy, and B, you're in fight or flight mode, so you're not going to digest it. And then you end up with a tummy ache, which adds to your mood, and then you go home crabby.
Yeah. And you feel like once I started intermittent fasting, lunch hour became more of like a buffer time. Like, I can finish this thing, and I didn't have so much pressure to finish by noon because I could just finish polishing or whatever, because I knew that I wasn't hangry anymore. So it's like releases you from the freedom of your body's urges to get to that point where your body doesn't have to eat anymore. It's amazing. And I have some podcast episodes on that too. They're fairly early on. One of the reasons that I started intermittent fasting, not just so that I wouldn't be hungry, was to lose weight, because I really needed to change the way I was eating, since I wasn't eating optimally for a human. So those are, episodes 4, 5, and 6 or something like that. So if that's interesting to your listeners, those are good ones to start with.
Fantastic. I'll find one of those and put the link in. And then if you wouldn't mind sending me that information on the other podcast that you learned from, then I'll make sure and include that as well.
Yeah, that one's really great because she's a life coach too, and she goes into all those thoughts and feelings and actions and stuff that I was talking about earlier.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, we've been on. I like to keep these under about 40 minutes. But I have one more question, and it's one of my favorites. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self when you just got out of dental school?
You don't have to rush. There's joy in the journey. There is not better than here. So just slow down and enjoy yourself.
That's beautiful advice. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. And you can find Dr. Mach at thelifecoachforbusydentists.com. Everything that she is about is there. So check out that website, and she'd be happy to visit with you if you have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for taking the time and rushing to get here from the orthodontist. We appreciate you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
You are the CEO of your life. Now become the boss of your balance.